Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to make one of these tote bags. For this project you'll need at least 4 different colours of yarn, scissors, a 3.5mm crochet hook, stitch markers and a tapestry needle. First you make a slip knot, you chain 3 and slip stitch back into the first chain. You chain 2 and place 2 double crochets back into the chain 3. The chain 2 counts as a double crochet stitch. You chain 1 and place 3 double crochets back into the chain 3. You repeat the pattern again, chaining 1 and placing 3 double crochets back into the middle of the chain 3. After this section, you repeat the pattern again. In total, you should have 4 double crochet sections. It should look something like this. You can see I have 4 sections of double crochet stitches with a chain 1 in between. When you're done, you slip stitch into the first chain 2 you made in the beginning. You chain 1 and cut your yarn and pull through. Even though this one doesn't, if your granny square has a hole in the middle, make sure you pull the tail end in the middle of your granny square. To connect your next colour, you simply pull it through one of the chain 1 spaces. You tie a couple of knots to make sure it's secure like so. You pull through the yarn you're working with and chain 2. Just like before, the chain 2 counts as 1 double crochet stitch. Now you place 2 double crochet stitches back into the same space. You chain 1 and then place 3 double crochets back into the same space. This is our first corner. Unlike most granny square tutorials, they usually tell you to chain 1 in between each space, but to get a more compact granny square for a tote bag, I like to yarn over and start my next corner. Corners always go into a chain 1 space. I yarn over and place 3 double crochets back into the chain 1 space. I then chain 1 and place another 3 double crochets back into the same chain 1 space. I repeat this 2 more times. Your granny square should now look more like a granny square. When you finish your last section, you slip stitch into the chain 2 we made at the start. You then chain 1, cut your yarn and pull through. You connect your colour the same way, pulling through and tying a knot in the chain 1 space. You can even tie it to the ends of the last colour to make sure it's extra secure. You pull through your yarn and chain 2. You place 2 double crochets back into the same space. As this is not a corner, we don't chain 1, we only place 3 double crochets into the space and we move on to the next space. When you reach a corner, you place 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space. You chain 1 and place another 3 double crochets back into the chain 1 space. The next space isn't a corner, so you place 3 double crochets back into that space. The next space is a chain 1 space, so you place 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space, you chain 1 and place another 3 double crochets back into that chain 1 space. At this point you should be able to see the pattern. For corners you place 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space, you then chain 1 and place another 3 double crochets back into the chain 1 space. For non-corners you just place 3 double crochets and you keep on going like that. The more rounds you do, the more 3 double crochet sections you'll have. At the moment we only have 1 between each corner, the next round we'll have 2 between each corner, and then the next round we'll have 3 between each corner, and it will go up like that. The more rounds you do, the bigger your square will be. And I also did 12 rows. Super simple and super easy. In total, you need 3 granny squares. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to weave in your ends. What I like to do is go through the middle of my stitches. I place my needle through the middle of the stitch and try to do it in a zigzag format. Once you've done that, you can simply cut the ends. I also tie the ends together to make it more secure. I usually tie them together twice. Do you see how I put the tail ends back through the middle of the stitch? You continue to do this in a zigzag motion, going back and forth a couple of times to make sure it stays secure. Make sure whichever way you weave in your ends, you don't go in the same direction. When you put it back into the same stitch, you go in a different direction. This will ensure it doesn't unravel. Whatever side you decide will be the inside of your tote bag, make sure that's the side you weave in your ends, as weaving in ends can sometimes come out really messy, and it's better for it to be inside the bag. Now that all your ends are weaved in, now it's time to put the bag together. I use my stitch markers to pin the squares together so I know how I'm going to sew them together. Sometimes this process can get a little bit confusing, so it's easier to just pin them together so you don't forget which way you're going. You pull your yarn through both the front loops, making sure each loop you go through the opposite side's counterpart. This ensures your squares stay even when joining the squares together. You can then now pull up your first loop and then you place slip stitches through the front of each loop. When you get to the middle of the tote bag, you then have to start slip stitching into the next square. Go through the front loop of each of the squares. Go through the front loop of the 2 squares you were working with and then the new square, making sure you go through the same stitches on each square. This ensures consistency and also makes it look neater too. You now start working with the middle square and the new square you just added. You continue to follow this pattern until you get to the end. You slip stitch into the last stitch, you then chain 1 and cut your yarn. You then tie a couple of knots to keep everything secure. Okay, you attach your yarn to the front of the bag, you chain 3 and start placing double crochet stitches in each stitch. When you get to the corner, you crochet into the first 2 stitches. In the first stitch, you place 1 double crochet and then you chain 100. When you're done chaining 100, in the third chain through the hook, you place a double crochet stitch. You continue to place double crochet stitches into each chain until you get to the end. When you've placed your last double crochet through the last chain, you then start placing your double crochets into the double crochet you made at the start. Make sure you go through the middle of the double crochet. You place 2 double crochets into the double crochet. You then place 1 more double crochet into the same space you put the first double crochet before you chained 100. Hopefully all this made sense. You then begin placing double crochets alongside the bag. When you get to the other corner of the bag, you do the same thing, chaining 100 and going back into the chain 100 with double crochet stitches. When you get to the end, you slip stitch into the chain 3 you made at the start. You chain 1 and cut your yarn. You weave in all your ends and you have your very own tote bag.